Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is currently 9 a.m. Thursday, June 30th, and I am currently driving southbound on I-155 in Caruthersville, Missouri. I left a truck stop in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, about an hour or so ago, where I stayed last night. It's a pretty big truck stop. It's pretty nice. I've stayed there before. They got some pretty good food. They have an Emo's pizza. It's a lot different than your ordinary pizza, and you gotta have a taste for it, I think. But it's pretty popular. It's around a lot of the like Chicago and St. Louis areas, and some of the surrounding areas from there. So I've had it a long time ago, and I've had it at that truck stop before, and you know, I like it. I got a pretty good taste for it. Like I said, it's different, but it's pretty good, I think. That truck stop, it's pretty big. It's got 150 spots. They have a few showers, but showers were closed off last night. I'm assuming they didn't have enough employees, but they were open this morning. And they also have other food selections other than Emo's Pizza. They actually have almost it's called a food court. You know, they have Emo's Pizza and I think a Subway and I think something else, maybe like a Chester's Chicken, maybe. But they got pretty good food. You know, pretty decent selection. Parking is it's very easy there. It's a very big lot, and like I said, they have 150 spots, and you're really not packed in. So, like a lot of places, like a lot of Loves, you'll get a Loves that's got 80 or 100 spots, but you know you're pretty packed in. But anyway, so I left Valley, Nebraska yesterday with a load of steel utility poles. I'm taking them down to Tallahassee, Florida. I have 3 sections, and this is my first time getting loaded with steel utility poles in Valley. And Valley is just right outside of Omaha. I got loaded at a company called Valmont, and they're actually a pretty dang big company. Because I've loaded at a few different Valmonts before, and I've been to that one in Valley once before. I delivered last week some steel plates. Looks like we're crossing the river. I don't know that I've ever, I've crossed here before. But anyway, man, it's pretty out there, man. But anyway. So, if you've never been to Valmont, and if you ever do go there, you just pull into their main gate, and they actually have semi-parking just to the right of the main gate. You check in with the guard shack. And when I first delivered there, I actually stopped on the road because it looked like it was an entry for cars only. So on the road, turned on my flashers, did a little bit of recon to make sure that I could get up in there because I didn't want to pull in and then have to back out on the road. To be honest with you, I thought I had missed the truck entrance or something. But now there's about 3 or 4 parking spots just to the right that you pull into, check in with the guard shack, and then they tell you where to go. Getting loaded there was pretty easy, pretty good. We are now entering Dyersburg, Tennessee. But anyway, checked in with the guard shack. They told me to pull ahead it's probably about 30 yards or so to another little parking area, and told me that a fork truck driver would come and get me. About 20 minutes later or so, the fork truck driver came and got me and took me to another part of the lot, and it was a very easy load, very quick. I just pulled into the area where the fork truck driver told me to, and he told me when to stop. And then another fork truck driver set the poles on my bed, and then I circled back around where I was originally parked, kind of in that area where I secured my load and went into the guard shack to get my paperwork. However, the guard didn't have my paperwork at the time. He didn't know why, and he wasn't too pleased himself that he didn't have it. Just somebody else was being slow. This guard appears to be one of those people that likes everything to be ran like a well-oiled machine, you know. And but he told me to go sit back in my truck, and he would call me when it was ready. And about 15-20 minutes later or so, he called me and told me to circle back around to the guard shack and pick up my paperwork. But it's pretty easy to load there. I liked it. It was all right. So I'm headed to Tallahassee, Florida with them, and there's another driver there. When I loaded, he said he was going to the same place, and he told me that the 2 or 3 trucks before us is also going to the same place. So we'll see if we all get there about the same time or so. I was probably out of a group of 5. I don't know if they had any more after me, but as far as I know, I was the last to leave out of a group of about 5. So we'll see if I can catch them. I ran about 500 miles, a little over 500 miles yesterday, and I stopped with an hour left on my clock. I could have kept going to the next truck stop, but I would only be able to drive about another hour, so I decided to just go ahead and stop in Cape Girardeau, and I was tired, and then I'm going to finish it out today. I'll stay at a truck stop somewhere around Tallahassee and finish it out in the morning, and hopefully get a quick load out of Florida in the morning. We got a weigh station coming up here in a mile. See if we get the green light, or if it's an all trucks way. I think I've only driven this way once, so I don't remember. It says all trucks must stop for inspection. All right. So I guess if they're open, we're going to pull through. But anyway, so I want to talk to you guys today about a case I had. It was a murder case where we didn't have a body. Okay, it looks like, I guess it's not open. Anyway. Anyway, that was weird. It said there was a weigh station, but then there obviously was no scales, but it was just kind of a pull out, and there was a truck stop there with DOT, but the truck in front of me kept going, and it looks like 2 or 3 trucks ahead of him has kept going, and the truck behind me kept going. So I don't know if I was supposed to stop or not. But anyway, it just kind of confused me because there was no scale. And I thought maybe it was one of those, it used to be a scale house and they closed it down, but we'll see. They ain't coming after anybody. But anyway, so I want to talk to you guys about a case today. It was a murder case where I had no body. We had just a piece of the victim's skull. And we ended up getting the suspect in the case ended up making a plea, and he actually got a pretty sweetheart of a deal too, to be honest with you. And it was kind of a surprise plea, but like me and the prosecutor actually handling the case didn't realize that he was making a plea because he was making it with another county, and I'll kind of get into that as I go along. So anyway, so there was a piece of a skull that was found on a small farm, or yeah, it was a small farm in a neighboring county. A dog had brought it up to the house. So, and it actually ended up being the suspect's parents' house, or suspect's mom's house, or some family member of the suspect, where the suspect had lived at some point. But anyway, so they call law enforcement, and the neighboring county is a pretty small county, and since they had a skull, what they wanted to do was they wanted to search the rest of the property, and it was quite a bit. It was several acres, and they wanted to search the rest of the property for the body. So they activated what is called our M Squad, or Major Case Squad. And basically what the M Squad is all the surrounding agencies will dedicate an investigator or two, or an officer or two, or a deputy or two, to assist with major investigations. Well, since they had this big property they wanted to search for human remains, they went in and activated the M Squad, which is how me and my partner got involved. So we end up not finding any more body, but we started conducting the investigation, and the investigation quickly turned to a missing person from my city. We had a cold missing person case, and we believed the portion of skull belonged to him. We ended up positively identifying the skull as his through like mitochondrial DNA, and also he had a previous injury to his skull that was treated, and it just so happened that we had the section of skull that was injury, that had the injury before. It was like fractured or something, and I want to say we had some the hospital had some x-rays of it, and they were able, through the mitochondrial DNA and the x-rays, they were able to confirm that the portion of skull we had actually belonged to our victim. So we pretty quickly, and this was a cold case. Like, it had been cold for, gosh, I want to say 2 or 3 years, maybe a little bit longer. Basically, this guy was reported missing, and nobody knew anything about where he went or what happened to him. But anyway, so we ended up developing a suspect also pretty quick. The suspect was the son, I believe, of the people who found the skull. And the suspect was actually serving time in federal prison for, I believe, being a felon in possession of a firearm. And he was serving that conviction down in Texarkana, at the federal penitentiary in Texarkana. Well, during the investigation, we ended up uncovering witnesses and cooperating individuals. And they weren't witnesses to the actual crime, but like they had information of things that they knew he had said, like conversations they had with him and things like that. And he had made mention about killing this guy and desecrating the body. Like, he kept this guy's head for a while in a bag, I guess, and would talk to it. This guy was also, like, said he was some kind of would tell people he was some kind of a shaman or a witch doctor or something like that. Gosh, I forget the name that he used, but it was something, I think he used the term shaman, but he also used some other kind of name for a witch doctor. But anyway, he would perform rituals and stuff with small animals and do voodoo, all kinds of voodoo crap. So after he gets out of, or after his sentence in Texarkana, we have him transferred up to our jail because at that point we had an arrest warrant for murder, and we transferred him up to our jail where he'd be held for the investigation and for charging and trial and all that. So during my investigation, I was able to come up with a couple of people who wanted to help out with the investigation. And basically what we did was they were friends of his. One of them, I think, actually dated him for a while. And we put a wire on her, and she did a jail visitation. Well, back then, the jail visitation was done face-to-face. Now it's done over the internet. But basically, it was face-to-face, but you were separated by a really thick piece of plexiglass, and you talked to each other through a telephone handset. Well, the wire that I had on her goes in her ear, and it's supposed to record both sides of the conversation. Well, she used the wrong dang ear. So, we put the earpiece in one ear, like in her right ear, and that's the ear she's supposed to use. Well, she wasn't thinking and switched the phone, just like, I think it's kind of normal for people to switch the phone from ear to ear or whatever during their conversation. Well, that's what she did, and we ended up not getting a lot of the conversation because, she went to her other ear and just kind of stayed there. There was a part of me that thought that she may have done it on purpose, but, like I said, it was just a thought. So then the second girl, who was a friend of his, was going to do this as well, because they both had separate conversations with him, and they both had separate but similar stories of their conversations and what he would tell them. So she did this too, and lo and behold, the dang handset is broken on the day that she goes. And so, she doesn't really know what to do. I mean, we really didn't plan for that contingency. But had I had the foresight that the handset might be broken, then I would have told her that, hey, if the handset's broken, you need to find a guard and have them transfer you to another visiting booth. But in any case, the handset was broken, so they had to talk to each other through the plexiglass. And obviously, I didn't pick anything up on the wire on that either. Or if I did, it was very, very little. But anyway, so also during the investigation, we find that the suspect was stopped by police, and I think this might have been what wound him up in prison. I think maybe he had a gun on him during the stop, and that's what wound him up in the federal prison. But he was stopped like the week of our victim being reported missing. And there was a search of his car, and I believe that's when they found the gun, but they also found some other stuff in his trunk that the officers just thought was weird, so they took pictures of it. And I mean, it was just straight up just like chance that they would take pictures of this stuff. He had like a couple of shovels, he had a couple of cans of gasoline, or one can of gasoline. He had some what I believe to be kitty litter and sawdust, which are really good absorbents. If you want to clean up any kind of a wet mess, kitty litter and sawdust, or kitty litter or sawdust, is awesome for absorbing wet messes. But he also had a folding saw. Now this saw it looks like a giant pocket knife, and when you open it up, it folds out to be about 2 to 2.5 feet long, maybe. And on the blade, there were stains that were visually consistent with blood. I even asked one of our crime scene officers, I asked him to look at the photograph, and I zoomed in on the stains and asked him, I said, what is that? Now, this guy was a skeptic. He was skeptical of everything. And he just flat out said, oh, that's blood. He says, it might, can't tell obviously if it's human blood or animal blood. He said, but that's blood. That's what blood does to metal, on a metal surface. So anyway, so we had all that, and plus what the witnesses and cooperating individuals gave us, and the guy was killed supposedly because the suspect thought he had done something to one of his nieces, like a young child. And I think the father of the child may have been in on it as well. And we had basically almost the same identical case on him, but he was never charged, and that really kind of ticked me off a little bit. And I want to say, they didn't have proof or anything like that. It was just a hunch, so they killed him. But anyway, so this guy's sitting in a neighboring, he's sitting in our jail, and but he's charged to a neighboring county because there were jurisdiction issues. Just say if we would have tried to charge him in our county, and then we find out the murder actually happened in the neighboring county, they just went down there and that's where he actually killed him, because we believe he killed him. We believe we know the house where he killed him at. But that search of that house did not turn up any evidence, so we couldn't prove that he was killed in our county. So, but since the body part was found in the neighboring county, there was no jurisdictional issues. Even if there's basically an exception to that. That basically, there won't be any jurisdictional issues if the body is found in that county, but they find out that the murder was committed in another county. If that makes sense. Sorry about that. That was a little all over the place. But in any case, so we have a prosecutor from our county that was going to prosecute the case because she was more equipped to handle homicides more than the smaller county's prosecutor, who didn't have much experience in major cases like that. And so that's where he was charged at. So he was kind of in charge of the whole case, but we investigated it. And he ended up making a sweetheart of a deal with this guy. All right, I want to say he got 4.5 or 5 years, and at that point he had been in our jail for a year or so, and he just was he's got a sweetheart of a deal, and even our prosecutor did not know the deal was happening until it already happened. And she wasn't happy, we weren't happy, but hey, you know what? Bottom line is, the prosecutor in the neighboring county is the one that has to answer to any flaws in the case, and he felt that he needed to just get it done and over with. Kind of a funny story about that case, though. My partner calls me up one day and he was like, "Hey, can you go to the store and get me a can of chew and bring it to my house?" He had called in sick. I said, "Okay." And he tells me, he says he thinks he had some kind of an allergic reaction to searching the property, because we had searched this property multiple times. At one point, when we took over the case, we had cadaver dogs brought in to sniff around. We were just all over this property, and it was a pretty big property, looking to see where the remains were buried, because supposedly he had decapitated the victim and kept the head for a while, and then buried the remains, I want to say, in a barrel maybe with some lime. And lime is used in farming, and there was piles of lime in farmers' fields all around the area. But we never could find where he buried the body, and so all we had was the the cranial portion of the skull. Basically, it was about the size of my hand. But anyway, so we had made multiple trips to this property. Well, my partner called me wanting me to bring him some chew, and he had called in sick and told me, he says, "Man, I had an allergic reaction." And he says, "You're not allowed to take any pictures of me, man. And just bring me my chew. I don't want to go out in public looking like this." And I'm thinking, okay, whatever. I get there, and his face is so swollen. Like, his ears are swollen. His whole face is just swollen. And my partner was pretty self-conscious about it. And I remember having a conversation with him, though, that, you know, he said that he doesn't know if he'll turn it into the city as a work-related injury because, you know, I mean, he said, well, I could have got it mowing my grass or something like that. I told him, I said, dude, you mow your grass all the time. We were down traipsing around in the woods. I said, you got into some poison oak or some poison ivy or something that made you flare up like that. So you need to turn it into the city so that they can compensate you for your doctor's visits. But, you know, I don't know if he ever did or not. But anyway, so that's the case. Like I said, the guy got a pretty good sweetheart of a deal on that case, and it was a pretty big deal. I mean, we had to have a witness come back from another state for one of our court trials, and the witness was actually uncooperative. But I found out that she had a misdemeanor warrant for her arrest, and no, it was a felony. I think it was a felony theft warrant. But normally we're not going to extradite for just like a felony theft warrant because, you know, the cost outweighs the results. Basically, you know, we're not going to pay thousands of dollars to have somebody extradited from another state for something where they're going to get probation and probably a little bit of a fine. But I talked to the prosecutor, and we really, really needed this witness, so she changed the extradition orders, and I actually ended up having her. I got in contact with contacted some U.S. Marshals, and they went and arrested her for me. And there was a little bit of drama up there for that arrest as well. But it was definitely a lot more than just arresting somebody on a simple felony warrant. But in any case, so that's my story for the day. Like I said, it was kind of an intriguing case. Like I said, the guy was a witch doctor, shaman, practiced voodoo. I mean, it was a pretty big deal. Like, even in one of the search warrants, we ended up finding evidence of like voodoo or witch doctor practices, just like he claimed to be, and that was something that we wanted to collect because I remember in the conversations that he had with our witnesses, there was talk about his witchcraft. But anyway, so that's my story for the day. If you like it, like it. If you want to send me a comment, send me a comment. Until next time, I'm going to sign out. Have a good day.